this thing started. It is Tuesday, November 10th, 2020 at 6 p.m., and you are at the Common Council of the City of Wausau meeting. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is roll call.
Peckham. Here. Martins.
Here.
Killian. I know the song. We'll go back to him. Neal.
Here.
Wadinsky.
Here.
McElhaney. Killian.
Here.
Rasmussen.
Here.
Watson.
Here.
Herbst.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Ryan.
She's here.
She's here. All members are present.
Okay, thank you. Next item, proclamations. I have two. The first one is for Veterans Day. Whereas throughout our history, loyal citizens from every corner of America have willingly assumed the duty of military life in conflicts worldwide to ensure the citizens of the United States have a life of democracy and freedom. And whereas we salute the members of the armed forces who are confronting our adversaries abroad, and we honor the men and women who left America's shores but did not live to be thanked as veterans, they will always be remembered by our country. And whereas today our veterans inspire new generations of Americans as we work to defeat terrorism and advance of peace throughout the world, and whereas in respect for and recognition of the contributions of our servicemen and women have made to cause the cause of peace and freedom worldwide, we celebrate Veterans Day. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Katie Rosenberg, Mayor of the City of Wausau, do hereby encourage all citizens of the community to participate in the safe and patriotic activities on November 11th, 2020 by celebrating Veterans Day and to recognize the valor and sacrifice of all United States veterans. And I have a second proclamation proclaiming November 2020 as Election Worker Celebration and Appreciation Month. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic had a profound effect on the 2020 elections, including changes to polling sites and keeping some of Wausau's experienced poll workers at home. And whereas City Clerk Leslie Kramer and her amazing team of 6 navigated our community through an extraordinary election season, including helping people navigate the absentee voting process and continuously improving their own internal processes to improve safety in our elections. And whereas the City Clerk's office overcame immense difficulties, including changes to polling sites, training new election workers, along with retaining and recruiting 161 election workers to support safe and secure voting. And whereas election workers, both experienced and novice, played a critical role in helping voters safely and securely access their ballots with face masks, face shields, hand sanitizer, sanitized pens, carols, barricades, and whereas making adjustments to the election administration, educating the public, recruiting and training additional poll workers required long hours and creativity by Clerk Leslie's team. And whereas drive-through voting was a significant innovation that allowed hundreds of Wausau voters to vote in person, absentee from the safety of their cars. And whereas Wausau's fancy new ballot box gained national media attention and inspired many surrounding communities to follow suit. And whereas thanks to their gallant efforts, there was a record number of absentee ballots returned to the city clerk's office representing 51% of registered voters, 6 busy polling sites on election day, and an overall participation of 87%. And whereas in order to recognize the extraordinary efforts made by the city clerk's office and election workers, the city of Wausau urges voters, businesses, organizations, public officials, and all candidates for public offices across our community to join in and celebrate and thank these individuals. Now therefore I, Katie Rosenberg, Mayor of the City of Wausau in the state of Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim November 2020 as Election Worker Appreciation Month in Wausau and commend its observance to all residents. I want to give a special shout out to you, Clerk Leslie Kramer, for helping us get through this, but I also want to recognize Deputy Clerk Mary Gady, Ashley Klein, Leah Wild, Bonnie Peterson, Jennifer Kervoshine, and Michelle Van Cray for all of their efforts. In addition, the Finance Department, who served as backup, thank you. The Department of Public Works team, who set up and tore down all those polling sites and all the drive-through voting. And the Wausau Emergency Police, who helped voters get to the right places, and every single election worker, Wausau employee, and cleaning staff who ensured that this election happened safely and securely. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have public comment. So everyone who is pre-registered, if you were pre-registered for the budget hearing, I'll call you then. But if you're registered for anything else, I will call you now. So first up, I have Tricia Zunker. If you could state your name and address for the record. Is she on the phone?
She is here, but she might be in the overflow room.
Okay, we'll just give her a second. Oh, looks like she's coming in.
Good evening, Mayor Rosenberg, Wausau City Council. My name is Tricia Zunker. My address is 1404 Golf Club Road. I'm here tonight because of the agendized item of the mask ordinance. And I'm here to thank you for addressing this critical issue. We, in the Wausau School District, on the Wausau School Board, passed a mask policy a couple months ago because masks save lives. And the science tells us that masks reduce the spread of contagion. That's a fact. Another fact is that we have skyrocketing deaths in this state. Today, we had over 7,000 deaths, or 7,000 cases rather, from COVID-19. We also had a record number of deaths. The third thing that's a fact is that last week, the Wausau School District went back to in-person learning with the option of virtual. And I'm here because we need to keep the community safe, and we need to keep our students safe, our staff safe, and we had a lot of difficult discussions. COVID-19 has brought bad decision after bad decision, and because of the lack of anything from a national level, it's fallen on local school boards to manage a global pandemic. So thank you for addressing an ordinance, because part of that discussion included the fact that it's not just a community issue when we talk about the school district, because the students and staff don't just stay in the schools. They go back out in the community. Well, when the transition happened, part of the discussion that administration brought to us was, we know we can keep students safer because we can social distance, we can ensure masks, we can ensure hand washing. The problem with that, though, is that we can only do that 7 hours of the day. We need everybody to get on board, and I gave you some numbers earlier. But right now in the district, we have 55 positive cases between staff and students, and we have 471 in quarantine. And that is because we are only able to ensure the safety 7 hours a day. And our students and our teachers are working so hard in this environment, but it's a community issue, and I implore you to consider the health and safety of everybody in passing this mask ordinance tonight. I encourage you to pass it so that we can, as good external partners, send a uniform message. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to let everyone know I'm timing 3 minutes for your comments, so you'll have 3 minutes, and then I'll ask you to stop. Next up, I have William Harris. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. First, I want to thank the mayor and the Common Council for the ability to speak tonight. My name is William Harris. I am at 316.5 North 3rd Street, Apartment C, Wausau, Wisconsin, zip code 54403. I'm here to speak as a Marathon County Board Supervisor for District 3 and also a member of the Health and Human Services Committee. I am in support of an ordinance requiring face coverings. And no matter what position you fall on today, as you give comments today, I ask that the public be respectful and just think about the fact that everybody that's here, that's making these decisions, no one is against anyone. Everyone here is trying to make the best decision that they can for this community. And with the rise in COVID cases, I think it's important to recognize not just numbers, but actual people. When I got in this position, to represent people who don't have a voice. And I can't think of people who don't have a voice more so right now than the people who have passed because of COVID, who were residents here in Wausau and in the district. So I just want to touch really quickly on a few residents, although there are many who have passed away. Bill Cerny. He passed away on October 21st of COVID. He had a bachelor's degree from Lawrence University. He served proudly in the U.S. Army. He worked at Wausau Papers for a while. He took a second career as a teacher at the middle school, coaching at Horace Mann and John Moore in Wausau. With his blended family, with his wife, they have had 7 children. He was soft-spoken, generous, patient, and a compassionate man. But more than that, he was super involved in our community and is a great loss. He was interested in social justice issues, and community service. He was a former school board president, a member of the Lions Club here. He volunteered for Habitat for Humanity. He prepared income taxes for low-income and elderly people and was an active member of Emmanuel Lutheran Church and a lifetime member of Phi Alpha Theta. He's described as a loving father, a good friend, and a community leader, and an example of the best in humanity. His family had wanted to extend a special thanks to the staff at Aspirus for the care and compassion shown to Bill and his family under the extreme conditions of the pandemic. In terms of his effect on the community, some of the people that wrote, for instance, one of his students wrote, "I am saddened to see this. Mr. Cerny was my teacher. He was a good teacher and a very nice man. I am so sorry for the loss of Mr. Cerny," and said to the family they will keep him in his thoughts and his prayers. And there were many other comments like that in terms of the loss of Mr. Cerny. Another resident.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We've hit 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. But it's just important to think about the actual people who have died and not just numbers, because that's what we're trying to prevent. So I ask that people think about that when they make their comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, I have Bruce Grau. If you could state your name and address for the record. Writing on you.
Bugging me. My name is Bruce Grau. I live at 1115 North 10th Street. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk about this life-changing issue that's facing our community. I work as a geriatric nurse practitioner, but I'm not here to demand my personal liberties to be protected, not at the expense of another person's life or protracted suffering from COVID. I consider that fake liberty. I'm here to freely speak for my nursing home patients and their families, for my friends and colleagues, for the 47 community members who signed a petition demanding city employees wear masks back in July, and for those without the means to be here who are actually bearing the brunt of this pandemic, my fellow brothers and sisters of the working class. COVID has severed the lifeline between my nursing home patients and their families. Anxiety and depression is at both ends. A husband asked me if I could do what I could do, if there was anything I could do to possibly make it such that his wife, who has dementia, who he's been married to for 60 years, wouldn't forget him in his absence. I had no reassuring answer to give him. 6 out of my 11 residents testing positive have died, all within days of diagnosis, leaving shocked family members devastated and pondering, why is it so hard for somebody to wear a mask? I have no comforting explanation. Over 2,000 of my nurse colleagues have succumbed to the virus. I had a friend in New York, a doctor, who survived the surge, and every 10 minutes, a patient was dying at the height of that surge. I become more numb to the situation. Over 10 million working class people and countless small businesses have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, and their health coverage. Yet we see billionaires raking in billions. That's morally unacceptable. Other countries have proven the claim of medical scientists that wearing masks saves lives. It allows us to open our economy and eventually, I hope, our nursing homes too. Conceding to self-centeredness, veiled in misconstrued calls for liberty, in my opinion, fuels COVID surges. It decimates lives and livelihoods. Fake liberty, like fake science, kills. Your action tonight can retard this perilous momentum. Your action tonight hopefully will allow you to go to sleep comforted by the fact that you did everything in your power to protect us.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Hit 3.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Right on time.
Thank you. All right, next up I have Meg Ellefson. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Margaret Rose Ellefson, 4711 Rib River Trail in Wausau. As a tax-paying citizen of the city of Wausau, I attend a number of public meetings. I would like to address the incident that occurred at the last city council meeting that I attended. I've not been ever called out in a meeting for any reason. I was surprised that not one representative of the city said anything to defend a fellow citizen. I was shocked to discover that a member of the city council is permitted to bully and harass a woman who was quietly attending a public meeting. I found it hypocritical and alarming that there were 2 men who spoke from the podium and neither were harassed for not wearing a mask. Like our smartphones, is COVID a smart virus? How does it know if a non-mask wearer is quietly sitting in a chair observing a meeting or standing and speaking at the podium? We're all breathing the same recycled air in this room. It's appalling that a member of our city council would single someone out for not wearing a mask without knowing that person's circumstances or even having a basic familiarity with the governor's orders, which I have in my hand. On page 2, the very top, it says, all Wisconsinites are called upon to show patience and compassion for those who are unable to wear a face covering. And then on the 4th page of the frequently asked questions, which can also be found on the governor's website, question, what do I do if I see someone not wearing a face covering? Answer, nothing. Some people have conditions or circumstances that would make wearing a face covering difficult or dangerous. Question, what do I do if someone is harassing me? Answer, no one should have to endure harassment for any reason. With their permission, I'm briefly sharing the stories of 3 of my friends who could not or choose not to wear a mask. My friend Adrian, who was a victim of sexual assault, whose assailant covered her mouth with his hand so that she couldn't scream for help. My friend Kevin, who was held hostage for 444 days in Iran and was often blindfolded and had his entire face covered, not knowing if he would be shot to death while in captivity. My friend Kelly, whose child has autism and reacts with anxiety and deep distress if his face is covered. I choose not to wear a mask because I take responsibility for my health. I do not want or expect someone else, particularly a stranger wearing an unsterile piece of fabric, to make my health their business in the same way that I don't make their health my business. I don't tell them how to live their lives, nor do I want or expect them to tell me how to live mine. I manage my health by exercising, eating healthy, and avoiding alcohol, smoking, and drug use. It is my body and my choice, just as it is your body and your choice. A mask mandate or resolution in Wausau will discriminate against those who cannot or choose not to wear a mask.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Hit 3 minutes.
I'll conclude by saying it'll further traumatize those who cannot or choose not to wear a mask, and it will further divide and pit citizen against citizen. Is that the Wisconsin you want? I ask you not to vote to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Joseph Opachowski. You could state your name and address for the record. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I have you as, it looks like you want to speak on the budget. Okay, let me just wait here. And I'm guessing Will Bertram, same thing, budget? Yes, okay. Is that it? Okay, it looks like we have everyone else for the actual budget hearing, so thank you very much. We'll move on. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Oh, just kidding. We have a presentation by John Schmiel about the airport. We're going to let him get it in before we get down to more business.
Good evening. My name is John Schmiel. I'm the airport manager at the Wausau Airport. And first of all, I want to thank the City Council and the Mayor and all those in the public for giving me 1.5 hours of your time to present what's going on at the airport. No, don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. But I do appreciate the time for me to tell you some of the positive things which we all need right now to hear about what the city is doing and through one of its departments. So a lot of you haven't been here before and are unfamiliar with how the airport works. So just let me give you a brief rundown of how it works. The city of Wausau owns an airport called the Wausau Downtown Airport. And it's one of the few privatized departments of the city, which means that the people who run the airport are not employees of the city, and in fact, there are no employees of the city that work at the airport full-time. What privatized means is that they partner with my company, Wausau Flying Service, who has 2 contracts with the city. One is to provide the airport management of the airport, and the other one is to provide the services at the airport. But we also have other partners that are involved in the success. One of them is airport tenants. They're the end users of the airport, and they support the airport financially through renting hangars and flowing fuel through our fuel pumps, which the city receives revenue from. But many of them are also investors at the airport who have actually taken their private money and decided to invest in facilities that now serve the airport through private hangars. And that's something that was created by the city, an opportunity that was created by the city of Wausau for people who use the airport to build their own hangars. The other partner that we have is the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics and the FAA. They help us by helping us comply with FAA mandates, but they are also responsible for the majority of funding of capital projects at the airport. There are a lot of people that don't realize that the taxpayers of Wausau pay very little of capital projects at the airport. Most of the capital projects are funded only 5%. So to give you an idea, if we have $1 million project at the airport, like a replacement of a taxiway, the city of Wausau would really only be responsible for $50,000 worth of that project. The rest of that funding would come from the FAA. That's a great partner to have. So some of the other partnerships that we've been able to forge within the community are very important to our recent success. And this is, my wife and I started Wausau Flying Service here 28 years ago in an agreement with the city. And one of the things that we've tried to do recently was forge partnerships within the community. And I'm really proud of that. The Southeast Side neighborhood is where the airport is located, and we work with the Southeast Side neighborhood to develop Alexander Airport Park, which was kind of a park that hadn't had a lot of attention paid to it for about 20 years. And the neighborhood decided they wanted to do some upgrades. And if you haven't been down to the Alexander Airport Park, it's a really special place. And it was designed with an aviation theme to expose kids to aviation, the history of Wausau, how airplanes fly, and it's made for grade school kids. It's just a really great place to go. So if you have a chance, just go down there and take a look at it. We've also recently partnered with the Wausau School District to develop a program called Aviation 101. It was started 3 years ago. And in that year, we had 6 students in that course. The next year, which was last year, there were 8 students in the course. For 2021, we're going to have, currently have 20 kids signed up for the course. So there's been some major growth within that program. What Aviation 101 is it's for high school students, typically in their junior year. The course is done through the virtual school, where the kids can learn how to pass one of the tests for their private pilot certificate. It helps them pass the knowledge exam. And then after school, they pair up 2 of the kids from the course. They come down to the airport, and you'll see in that bottom picture of that slide, they get to fly our simulator with the assistance of a certified flight instructor, and we try to teach the kids everything we possibly can about learning to fly an airplane through the simulator, so that if they choose to go on and earn their private pilot certificate in a real airplane, they know what they're doing before they get in the airplane. The program's set up so that the kids could actually solo an airplane their first summer, and then the next summer they would earn their private pilot certificate. These programs wouldn't happen without the support of our community, and the community foundations have been awesome. Specifically, both Alexander Foundations have contributed a large amount of money towards Alexander Airport Park, which is also named after the Alexander family who financed the original airport, which is the Wausau Downtown Airport, which used to be called Alexander Field. They've also been heavily involved in helping students and the costs for Aviation 101. So the partnership is between Wausau Flying Service and the school district. Wausau Flying Service takes care of the simulation part of the program, and the school district takes part of the virtual school program. And then lastly, I mentioned airport tenants before. We have great youth programs in Wausau, and in fact, if you were to ask the Bureau of Aeronautics, they would tell you that Wausau Airport is probably the role model for the rest of the state and quite possibly the rest of the country for youth aviation programs. Of course, we have Alexander Airport Park, which is developed for grade school age students. Wausau Flying Service has also created a program called Model Airplane Night, which is focused on the demographic of middle school students. And then there's, through the EAA chapter, an organization called Learn, Build, Fly, which is there to teach high school age kids and younger about aviation, the blue-collar arts, and engineering through the fabrication of real aircraft. And they're about 90% done with their second airplane. And by the way, I don't have pictures of it here, but I just purchased a primary glider that's going to be restored, which will probably be one of the next projects within the program. Obviously, airport tenants have, I told you about how they've helped with private hangar construction investment, but also many of the tenants have contributed their own money to help towards the youth programs at the airport. So the Wausau Airport community and the Wausau Flying community is very dedicated to exposing our youth in our area to aviation. Some airport facts. One of them I already told you is that there are no city employees that work at the airport. Wausau Flying Service is a private company. We are reimbursed by the city for managing the airport, but I'm not an employee of the city. Aspirus Medevac helicopter is based at the airport, and I think they celebrated their 10th anniversary this year. Saved many lives over the year, and they probably fly twice a day since COVID broke out, helping COVID patients. We also have one of the busiest flight schools in central Wisconsin. I currently employ 6 instructors helping 40 students learn how to fly. I would tell you that we're probably the busiest flight school in the area. If the economy holds out, I've already planned and hired my next flight instructor to add to that team of instructors, and I also plan on hiring another one come the end of summer 2021. So let's all pray for a good economy, because the airport can grow if it maintains the level of growth that we're at right now. Private citizens have invested in over 24,000, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The city owns 24,000 square feet of corporate hangar space, which allows us to house very large aircraft. One of the things that Wausau Flying Service does is provide pilot services for the community. And we have 3 turbine aircraft and 2 jet aircraft that fly all over the country with our pilots, helping local businesses do business throughout the United States of America. And I'm very proud of that. That's something that we've developed over the last 10 years. And I believe that the Wausau community is growing because of it. The city earns its revenue for the airport. One of its sources is through the rental of T-hangars. The city has 40 T-hangars at the airport. We've not built a row of hangars since 1993. And there are currently 20 people on the waiting list for T-hangars. So there's a huge demand for use at the airport, and we're at 100% occupancy at this time. That's why since 1998, there's been 16 privately hangars constructed. Their value is well over $2 million, and that's all been through private investment. We had 3 hangars built in 2020, and we've got another 2 already approved for next year and a 3rd one in the bullpen. When we started in 1992, there were 29 airplanes based at the airport. Today, there's 83 aircraft, and we have 4 jets, which have all come within the last 6 years. I'm very proud of that growth. In 2020, we accomplished a couple of great projects. One was a fuel system upgrade, which is replacing the jet fuel farm that we have. Jet fuel is the major source of income for Wausau Flying Service and for the city through fuel flow fees. And so to maintain that service for our customers is very important. Interestingly enough, in 1992, it was maybe only 20% of our income, and now it's about probably 60 to 70% of our income. The upgrades include installation of a new fuel farm, removal of the old system, upgrade of our leak detection system. We're going to have self-serve system upgrades, and it's also going to help us with state compliance. That project was funded 80% by the state of Wisconsin and 20% by local funding. We also relocated our weather station. When you watch the news, you hear the weather at the Wausau Downtown Airport. That station is located at the airport, and we located it to a different area away from our hangar development area, which is growing quickly. And we also got a front-end loader this year for snow removal, which I can tell you is really needed, especially with the jets that we have coming in and out. In 2021, we're going to be crack sealing the runways. We also have a design and engineering plan for refurbishing the terminal, which was built in 1952. I think it's time for an upgrade. We have a progressive, growing community in Wausau, and I think that the way that we need to look at the airport is we're an off-ramp to the rest of the world for people who visit Wausau. And when people get out of their vehicle at the airport and they look at the terminal, it is a direct reflection of that community. And we need to have a terminal building that reflects the kind of community that we are. And we've done our best to preserve what we have, and now it's time to go into the future and show people what we're going to give them for the future. We've also got a hangar that needs a hangar door replacement. It's the last one that we haven't replaced the door on, and I'm looking forward to that because we already had a couple cables snap on that this year, and I won't have that happen after next year. So COVID's been very hard on everybody. As the explanations earlier in the meeting have said, we're all frustrated over it, and we're trying to figure out ways around it. It was devastating to the airport earlier this year. All of our big events, the balloon rally, AirVenture in Oshkosh, which we earn a lot of economic impact from transient aircraft going back and forth. The AirVenture Cup race, which is the biggest day of the airport of the year, was canceled. We had hamburger nights, all local fly-ins and all air shows were canceled. So all of that activity went away for us. We pumped more fuel in one day during AirVenture Cup than any other day of the year. So to lose that was pretty devastating. When the governor mandated that we close, the airport had to remain open because it's considered an essential service, and we did kind of operate on life support, literally. We only had healthcare flights, really, during that period of time for about 45 days. We had to close our flight school. Our fuel flow dropped substantially. We had to pay our employees to stay home. We reduced to minimal staffing. It was literally a family affair. My wife and I and my son were the only ones working during that period of time. We asked the city for assistance because they're our partners, and they graciously came through on that and helped us with forgiving rent, utilities, and fuel flow. The main reason I'm making this presentation to tell you is that was a great decision because it helped us succeed for the rest of the year, and I want to thank you for that and really being there as a partner for us. The federal government also assisted with CARES money, and that's one of the things that helped us get the front end loader. So throughout the summer, we were down about 10% for the year, which I was very gracious about because I've been talking to other airports, and most airports in the state are down 25 to 40% for the year. So for Wausau to only be down that much over the summer, I thought was a great blessing to us. But I have something to tell you. And that is, October was a miracle from God, actually. We had the busiest month, I think, that Wausau Flying Service maybe has ever seen in the month of October. And in that month, we went from being 7% down for the year, that we're up 2% for our fuel flow. One of the reasons is a local investor decided to invest in a jet, which I have a picture of here, Right there, that's a Pilatus PC-24, which are made in Switzerland. And he's invested in that jet and made it available to local businesses to use to improve their business, and it travels throughout the country with our pilots on board flying that. And without that jet, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So it was a great thing. And in spite of being down for a month and a half during the shutdown, by the end of last month, we were up 8% for our flight school. Now, we're going from 8 students last year to 20 students this year through the high school program. So that's why we have to hire more flight instructors. We're going to end up hiring a line guy, and we're probably going to end up hiring another pilot. And it all hinges on COVID. It all hinges on if we can stay healthy and the economy can stay healthy. But I refuse to put my head down. I'm an American. I believe in working hard. I've had 10 days off since this COVID thing started. My kid works even harder than I do. I don't believe in being downtrodden and being taken over by this. And I want this to be an example of what Americans do when something like this happens. And I think that we're all capable of doing that. And I hope everybody steps up. In 2021, if COVID stays away, we're not only going to have a great year, but it's going to be even better than it ever has been before. The AirVenture Cup race has typically been a one-day event. I talked to the organizers this year, and they said if they can have the cup, they want to have the whole thing in Wausau next year. That means they're going to need 100 to 150 rooms in Wausau for their people. It's going to have a huge economic impact on our community. The amount of fuel that we flowed in one day, we're going to end up flowing over a 4-day period, which could double the amount of fuel flow, which is going to be a great benefit to the airport and to the city. And those 100 airplanes that come in for that event will be staying at hotels, eating at restaurants, and having an economic impact. In addition to that event will be the National Aircoup Convention. It's happening at the same time, if you can believe that, and that's going to be a 5-day event. There's probably going to be 30 airplanes as part of that. That'll be 1 week before AirVenture. We invite everybody in the public to come down to the airport. It's going to be huge. It could be the biggest event in Wausau Airport history. And hopefully, if COVID cooperates, we'll have hamburger nights and the balloon rally again. So let me just conclude by don't let life turn you upside down. In Wausau, at the airport, we teach people how to go from upside down to right side up in an airplane, and that's just a metaphor for life for us. But I want you to know that I can't take credit solely for this. We have a great team at Wausau Flying Service, and I can assure you that without my wife, who runs the finances, we wouldn't even exist 28 years later. So Wausau Flying Service did this with hard work, but the city of Wausau, considering what we asked them to do and partnering with us over the last 28 years and also helping each other, is what made this a success. And I just want to thank you for all of that. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Oh, that.
Oh.
The airport's been, it's one of the oldest in the state, and the airport was established in 1926.
Are there any questions from this body? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda. Motion by Neal, second by Herbst. Is there any discussion? Nope, we'll be doing roll call because we do have a member on WebEx.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. All right. Next item on our agenda is the public hearing for the proposed 2021 City of Wausau budget. Now, you don't have to have signed up in advance, but if you did sign up in advance, I will call your names, and then we'll go on to folks who didn't sign up and want to talk. So the first person I have, and I'll be giving you 3 minutes, just so you know I'll be timing you up here. First person I have is Joe Opachowski.
Hi, my name is Joe Opachowski, 1104 Augusta Avenue, proprietor of the Mint Cafe. I've been downtown for 31 years, and I'm here to speak in favor of the upcoming mall project. For the last couple of days, I kind of reflected on where we've come in 31 years, and there's a lot of things that I've seen. Beginning with the Wausau Library being built, the Whiffley Building being built, Dudley Building, Eye Clinic, River Life, condos, Jefferson Street Inn, 3rd Street, Performing Arts, YMCA, parking ramp. So there's a lot of things that have happened, positive, great things that have happened in downtown in the last 31 years. Unfortunately, we're in the COVID era, struggling, but we're going to just keep hammering away and keep going. And I'm just here to recommend everyone take a hard look at the mall. I spent a lot of nights and afternoons walking through there and getting some exercise, but it's due for a change. And we at the Mint and all our employees and all our neighbors are really excited about this project, and we'd like to see it move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Next, I have William Bertram. You could state your name and address for the record.
So my name is William Bertram. I live at 2207 Mount View Boulevard in Wausau, and I'm one of the co-founders of an outdoor rec organization named Iron Bowl. Now, you might be surprised to have somebody speak tonight from an outdoor nonprofit addressing the mall. But simply put, Iron Bowl is about economic development, talent retention, and attraction. You know, I retired from Regal Beloit in August of 2016 after spending 3 years in the Netherlands running a business in Europe. And prior to that, I ran Marathon Electric for 14 years. I lived downtown on 3rd Street for 5 years above the old St. Clair's men's store. I was Compass Properties' first tenant on 3rd Street. I guess I consider myself an urban homesteader when I first moved down there. I served on the CVA and the YMCA boards and on Main Street, Wausau. Presently, I serve on the board of the Historical Society and I'm the president of the Wausau and Marathon County Park Recreation Foundation. Now, I'm not here tonight to talk about my resume. I just want to give you a baseline of my commitment to the community and my involvement. And I would like to weigh in on the positive of the Wausau Center Mall and your budgeting decision that is at hand. You know, some years ago, the chancellor at UWSP referred to Wausau as an exit city, our county as an exit county, and the state as an exit state. And he was describing Wausau, Marathon County, and Wisconsin. And tonight I'd like to do a comparison, maybe a tale of two cities, Wausau and Eau Claire. From 2010 to 2018, Wausau has had a net decline in population of 1.5%, while Eau Claire had a net increase of 3.9%, one of the highest growth rates in the state for population growth. Study after study has shown by investing in millennials and Gen Zers is an investment in our future. They become future leaders like Katie, and they give back to our community in 100 different ways, as Tim Buckholz, president of Iron Bowl, does as an outdoor enthusiast, as a professor of music at UW Stevens Point, and as a civic leader. Iron Bowl does this tonight, and the city of Wausau can do the same. Invest, and they will come. Don't invest, and we will create a black hole in downtown Wausau that will suck in all the retailing in our city center. I can guarantee it. It will reduce our tax base. It will hamper businesses to recruit like Aspirus and Greenheck, and smaller businesses will be impacted by it. The asset that is greater than money is talent. And without a magnet, you can't attract that talent to Wausau. Young people have been a key factor in the Back to the City movement. So much so that one study identified youthification is a driving factor why millennials move back to communities.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, hit 3 minutes.
Well, and I'll end at that then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Mark Craig. He's being beckoned by our police chief. Oh, do you want me to? Oh, he's in a different room. He's coming. Okay. Hi there. We're giving folks 3 minutes. You know the drill. Name and address for the record.
Yeah, thank you. I'm at 330 North 3rd Street, Suite 701. Been downtown Wausau 25 years, and thank you for a few moments. I'd like to read 2 letters tonight, one from John and Patty Noel, and one from Bob Wyrock. Let me catch my breath. This is from John and Patty. We want to thank the Mayor Rosenberg, and the City Council for their leadership during these extraordinary times. We know you've been faced with difficult choices as you focus on meeting the needs of your constituents in the Wausau community. Wausau and other communities are faced with economic crisis created by the COVID pandemic that has been traumatic. Small businesses have closed their doors. Record numbers of workers have been displaced. Unemployment rolls. Revenues from taxes and fees have plummeted. Unfortunately, here in Wausau, we have a long history of coming together with effective, strategic, private-public partnerships that improve the area's quality of life and economic vitality. These include the Riverfront Improvement, Riverfront Park, Arts Block, Grand Theater, 400 Block, and several others. Over the past 2 decades, Patty and I have made major investments in Wausau's downtown business district with virtually no financial returns because we have a deep love for the city of Wausau. It's our hope to see it flourish for generations to come. That is why we're in full support of the WAS proposal to convert the existing mall into vibrant mixed-use development. Now is not the time to take a wait-and-see approach. As Dave Eckman said, a community, like a business, which fails to plan also plans to fail. For the future of our community and its residents, we simply cannot fail. We are thrilled the foundations have truly been amazing in supporting the Wausau community and can be trusted to make the right choices for the greater good. Patty and I urge you to support this vital project. Please vote in favor of the request from WAS. And Bob Wyrock, who's also been a lifelong resident of Wausau and a big partner in what we've been doing downtown, said that he'd like to voice his support for the WAS initiative. And just like John and Patty, he was raised here, married here, and likely will be buried here. He helped raise a family here, owned and co-owned several businesses. When we were asked to participate in the development of the Jefferson Street Inn, we stepped up and were one of the major investors in the property. When it was determined a restaurant was needed, it was my wife and I who once again stepped up to the plate and built and operated City Gurl Bistro. When it was time to expand the Jefferson Street Inn, my partners, John Noel and John Dudley, created the now iconic structure known as the Palladium. Yes, there are naysayers, but the truth is our combined efforts transformed a community and a downtown on the edge of extinction into a destination, a location of an urban lifestyle center. Now there's another opportunity for us to join together and support some extraordinary, talented, and visionary people who want to divert our beautiful downtown Riverside area from becoming a vast wasteland of economic blight and urban flight. Their vision is to create a mecca of housing, retail, and hospitality properties developed in cooperation with the city and its citizens. I believe in their vision, their dedication, and their ability to make this vision come true, but not without your support. I encourage you to support the WAS initiative. I'd like to also say, I've been working with several of the tenants in the mall to relocate out of the mall. Some of them are minority owned, and I'm hoping that with your help, as we move forward, that we can really make this city what it needs to be for future generations. Every 40 years, we need to recreate our community, and this is that time. So
Thank you.
hopefully you'll support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just saw Chuck leave, so I'll just give him a second. Next up, I have Blake Opachowski. I know he's joining us via phone. So if you'd like to state your name and address, and I'll give you 3 minutes.
Good evening. Yes, this is Blake Opachowski here, Executive Director for the Wausau River District. Address is 903 Franklin Street. Thank you so much for giving me a few moments to share my thoughts here. I just first want to express the importance of the redevelopment of the Wausau Center Mall and the impact it has on the River District. Currently, the mall property is just outside of the Business Improvement District and Main Street boundaries. However, we all know that what happens to this property will have a direct impact on our downtown and our entire community. Between the impacts of the pandemic and the changing landscape in retail, changes are needed to ensure our downtown's future success. In general, central business districts are transitioning into central social districts, so the importance of connecting people to place is more important than ever. The integration of more public green space, pedestrian and bicycle amenities, and increased residential offering will help us make this transition. During a visit from Wisconsin Main Street, it was identified that our community is, at that time, it was seeking all hours economy, which is hopefully the same direction we're going in now, with businesses open on Sundays and Mondays, late hours, what we're all looking for. We need to have residential density up to 12 to 15% living in our city center here in the downtown area. Currently, we have between 3 and 5% of our population living in this area. On the other end, one of the reasons why our daytime economy has been thriving for years is that we've had 32% of our population working downtown. However, with the pandemic, we have more companies transitioning to remote working options for their employees. We're beginning to see that percentage start to decrease, and that's another reason why increased residential density is critical for our community going forward. So with that, I urge you to approve this budget to secure the future, not only for just our downtown, but our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Chuck Dorsey. If you could state your name and address for the record, and you get 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chuck Dorsey, 1 Corporate Drive, Wausau. As I've been working with GWPP, our economic planning group for the greater Wausau area, I've developed a deep appreciation for its leadership and its 3 key initiatives: talent, innovative companies, and pacemaking. We have also begun a very powerful statement in which we claim it to be the best small city in America. One big reason we can claim that is because we have progressive city councils, businesses, and foundations working together to achieve great goals and visions for our community. And approving budgets like this one year after year keeps our community moving forward. This year is no different. And what this budget affirms is that we continue to reinvest in ourselves and our city. And that reinvestment shows up. It tells a story of who we are, how collectively we can work together and make Wausau a better place to live and work, to raise a family, and invest. Part of this year's budget includes funds for the reinvesting in our downtown. It supports our collective vision for a mixed-use development, second to none, that ties our entire downtown together, a vision that takes us into the next generations to follow. Your continued support in this vision is critical. This is not an easy journey, but when we get there, and get there we must, we can all look back and say, this indeed is how we became the best small city in America. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Lori Wires. I believe she's on WebEx.
Good evening, Lori Wires, President of North Central Technical College, 1000 West Campus Drive, 54401. As your community's college, we support initiatives that enhance our community while stimulating the local economy. The mall redevelopment project is critical to the success of Wausau's economic future and our community's ability to retain and attract visitors and residents to the Wausau region. This will also provide an opportunity for additional jobs for North Central Technical College students and graduates. NTC is well poised to provide skilled talent for local employers and continuing education for incumbent workers who benefit from this expansion and development. Along with the recent collaborations on the YMCA and the Aspirus Clinical Campus, WAS will continue to revitalize the downtown area. This investment would further bolster the city's strong reputation for their willingness to work together with private stakeholders to improve the quality of life for our citizens. We can each no longer afford to go at things alone. Collaboration is the key to strong communities. By working together, we can accomplish more. NTC is poised and ready to support the mall redevelopment plan and will lend resources and staff to ensure the success of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Pete Feliska. Feliska? Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. 316 Scott Street, Pete Feliska, Board President of Wausau Events. Dave Ekman had asked me to just give you a little overview of how this project, redevelopment of the mall, and your support of those dollars would impact an organization like ours. As Wausau has grown, and you've created different areas downtown, Wausau Events has used those areas. So the 400 block, for instance, the future that we look at down on the redevelopment of the river, and the redevelopment of the Wausau Center Mall location. We have tried over the past years to utilize parts of the mall for different types of events, albeit sometimes in case of weather and things like that. But our mantra is that we create community through events, and redevelopment of that mall location will allow us to continue to do that, creating community through events. I would ask that you support the dollars that are in your budget to redevelop that area of the city. Right now, with the pandemic and other events throughout the country, we've seen a lot of cities have their downtowns contract. Some of the cities I've been in recently, Minneapolis, for instance, there's not a lot of people downtown anymore. Wausau is going the other way. Wausau is actually wanting to add to the downtown, grow the downtown, and move forward. As you heard from Blake, one of our sister organizations, Wausau River District, I ask that you do support the redevelopment of that piece of property and support WAS's efforts to grow and enhance the downtown for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Laura Plato.
Good evening, Mayor Rosenberg and council members. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time tonight. I come to you, Laura Plato, 609 North 10th Avenue, Wausau, 54401, with the unique perspective of somebody who was recruited to this area and who very strongly adores the downtown district and being able to have a place to go to enjoy the community aspect of living here. when I am out in the community, by the way, I'm a realtor, I guess I forgot to mention that, and working with clients who are relocating to this area and giving community tours, the downtown is definitely one of the most focused areas that we're using to highlight what our community is and what it can be. And the talks of the redevelopment of the mall have been very exciting to us in the real estate industry, and also the ability to recruit and retain younger generations to this area as well. So just wanted to encourage you to please support the budget item that would go ahead with the WAS redevelopment of the mall area, letting you know that it's definitely something that we are excited about in my industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last person I have signed up is Owen Jones. You could state your name and address for the record. You get 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Owen Jones. I live at 7003 Executive Court in Weston. I'm a lifetime resident here in Wausau, and I'm a board member for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the owner of Tommy Docks and an 8-year real estate broker here in the state of Wisconsin. I own several hundred apartments in the area, both in the Merrill area, the greater Wausau area, and I go all the way to Shawano, as well as mini storage. And I have a good feeling for, the demand that's occurring in the downtown area and the Wausau greater area in general. I also own the duplexes that were developed on Thomas, and we've had an outstanding demand for those. We have a waiting list of 18 people for those units specifically. So I'm speaking in favor of the mall project and approving the funding. For many reasons, both from a real estate demand standpoint, but also from a business owner, specifically with Tommy Docks. It's a dock company, but we are sold in 50 states and Canada. We are sold in Home Depot, Lowe's, Mills Fleet Farm, and Ace Hardware throughout the country. And with that comes a need for sophistication and educated workforce. And by that I mean millennial kids that understand social media marketing, millennial kids that understand development, back-end development, front-end development. And that's an ongoing pain point, not just for my company, but for many people in this community that are trying to grow. And so I think there's an opportunity here to attract some of those younger kids from larger cities. And, it just so happens, if there was any positive to COVID, the silver lining in this is that these kids that work for Target corporate, these kids that work for Best Buy corporate, they are now, many of these positions are remote indefinitely. And so there's an opportunity here for us to capitalize on this and attract those kids in an environment that's similar to what they're experiencing in a large city, only their dollar goes a lot farther here, and they're able to travel to those large cities easy enough, when they have vacation time or whatever the need may be. So I'm speaking in favor of it. I think it's a huge win for the community. I think in terms of return on investment, and I look at the tax base that this type of opportunity creates for the city, and it's, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. I think it's a huge win for our city. So I urge that you guys vote in favor of it. I think you'll find that in a much shorter period of time than expected, you're going to have an entire new downtown area that's just going to encourage more travelers in the winter and more residents year-round. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your comment.
Yep.
All right, so that's all I have signed up. But if you are here to talk about the budget, you can feel free to approach the podium. I'll give a little time. I don't know if anybody's running in from the lobby or anywhere else. I'll wait one more. I'll ask the third time if anybody's here for public comment on the budget. All right, it doesn't look like that, so I am declaring this public hearing closed, and we will move on. Thank you very much for everyone that came out to speak tonight. The next item on our agenda are mayor's appointments. You'll see that I have two, one for Shannon Thomas to the Liberation and Freedom Committee and Michaela Ross to Plan Commission. I would entertain a motion. Motion by Peckham, second by Neal. Is there any discussion? All right, I think we're ready to vote. We'll do this by roll call.
McElhaney. Wadinsky. Neal.
Aye.
Killian.
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Peckham. Rasmussen.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Herbst.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, file number 200317, resolution approving the COVID-19 related mask requirements citywide. I would enter a motion by Rasmussen. Do I have a second? Second by Peckham. Is there any discussion? Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everybody that turned out and used our e-forms and email and phone and everything else to offer us public feedback on this. I think that the more we hear from our residents and from our constituents, the better the decisions we make are on any issue. And so that said, we asked for a lot of public feedback in the Public Health and Safety Committee, and the e-form was a godsend. I mean, it was the night of the meeting and in the days that followed thereafter, we took public comment from nearly 200 form completers. And so this meeting tonight has 3 packets because we've encapsulated all of that public feedback into the meeting packet so that not only the public could see it, but so that all of our alders could see it. And so in just distilling that down, I guess I would say that overwhelmingly, the public feedback that we've received is that the public recognizes the need for and supports mask regulation in the city. So, just as an example, the night of the Public Health and Safety Committee, we took almost 200 public feedback forms. If you distill out the ones that came from outside the city of Wausau that we don't make policy for, that's 60 forms. The rest of them, we had 120 in favor and 22 against. So, that's just the outcome of one committee meeting. And separate from that, I kept a log to see what feedback in District 7 was looking like specifically. And in that realm, based on the calls I received, those in favor of a mask ordinance or a mask resolution, either one, are in the lead 25-6. And, I think that was, it was, I would say surprising. Yes, there was opposition to the mask mandate, but by and large, it does appear that our residents support a mask mandate. And, that said, we were clear in Public Health and Safety that our mask resolution would take effect only if the governor's regulation either does not renew on November 21st or is struck down. And so it's not an immediate implementation, but it is a fail-safe that leaves some guardrails in place in our community if the governor's policy does not continue. Separate from that, we looked at a sunset date on it of January 31st. So this is not, masks for the rest of our lives. It's not forever. But we have to do something in the short term to get control of our virus cases. And we can't keep having the health department post daily totals where we're adding 180 new cases, 250 new cases, 3 deaths, 7 deaths. And, I guess I hope I was clear when the media approached me last week about the arrival of the mobile morgue truck. And they talked to the mayor about this too. How mortifying is it to all of us that a refrigerated mobile trailer has arrived to accept our relatives, our neighbors, and our coworkers? If we are in such a situation that we need that type of an accommodation, or that we expect that we will soon need that type of accommodation, we've got to do better. And so based on the feedback that I've received in my district, I intend to support the mask resolution. It is not the mask ordinance, which carries financial penalties. And it's my hope that by going with the resolution, and in the committee, we talked about trying the least invasive measure first, to let the community demonstrate to us that they can come together and move forward and fulfill this mask requirement without being chased down and fined. And so, yes, this is a resolution, but I also think that it then does not tax police resources. It doesn't tax the dispatch center. It doesn't encourage people to tell on one another, but it does call on the keepers of public spaces and residents to come together and enforce those masks. So I will be supporting it tonight.
Thank you. I guess I just want to make sure you're all aware that since you were all in here with me at 6 when Governor Evers had his address, he just issued Executive Order 94, and that's urging people to stay home. And some of the numbers he said in that was that Wisconsin had 7,000 new cases, 200, and that's today, 291 people hospitalized and 66 people died. And in Marathon County, what that looks like is 238 new positive cases, 18 people hospitalized and 7 people died, and that's a new record with the new positive cases. So I'm just letting you be aware there. He's urging people to stay home, continue taking care of yourself, face covering, all of that. I have Alder Neal next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, anecdotally, our daughter is a nurse working at a hospital in Milwaukee. And she came to visit us today because her mom is having a medical procedure, and she just wants to be around to kind of help her out for a couple days. I asked her, we're going to be discussing this mask mandate here tonight, and where does she as a nurse stand on it? And she unequivocally said, oh, absolutely, I would support that. She's on the front line. I saw a photo this week that she posted on Facebook of her face with lines in her cheeks from wearing her mask for long shifts all day, taking care of people who are sick. That's an anecdote. But we also look at input from sources like the CDC, from the WHO, from the NIH, from the state health department, from our local health department, and from our local caregivers. And everywhere there is strong support for mask use. Nobody says that masks are the be-all, end-all, 100% cure for everything. They are effective in reducing transmission. And they can also be effective in reducing being exposed. We know this. Yet, a lot of the responses we received seem to say this is an unconstitutional thing, which is patently false, and we've proven that that's just not the case. And we've heard that I should be able to take care of my own health decisions. And time and again, the point is being driven home that that is not what this is about. It's not about me making a decision about my health. It's about us making decisions about each other's health. Transmission from an infected person to people in a room who are unprotected can happen rapidly and spread to a lot of people. Masking helps mitigate that. That's just a fact. I've spent weeks, months, poring over all kinds of sources of information on this. I'm by no means anywhere near an expert, but I certainly respect what the experts say, especially in the great numbers that they are in agreement. I certainly support this. I understand that an ordinance is not, in the offing because, our police force is not in a position to undertake that. But we certainly hope that our business people work with the city in trying to make sure that we have as much masking compliance as possible so we can just take care of each other. That's what it's all about. I certainly support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've received quite a bit of communications from the public on this matter, and it's been a mixed bag, and some have felt very strongly that they wanted to see requirements with masks, and others I've received, they've been very concerned about this and opposed any type of mask mandate, and I've been clear with my constituents that on a matter of health and health risk, that this is just not an issue I'm going to create a tally on or a win-loss column, and I will say that I respect all of the opinions I've received, and I would always encourage as much public participation and communication as possible. And in a pandemic, we may have to wear masks, but what we never want to see is a muzzle on the public. So I welcome all those opinions, and the acts of government should always be scrutinized and sometimes challenged. But on that note, I think that really it's not a matter of personal opinion from me or even necessarily of this body, but what it may be is the expectation that this policy body act in a consistent, cohesive manner. And what I mean by that is when we're being told by the health department, and I've expressed my frustration with other facets of government, that I'm astounded this has landed on the laps of municipal government and to some degree our police department. It never should have come this far, and I'm not speaking from a political or partisan angle. I think some of those are false binaries. What I am speaking to is what may be the dysfunction of government that has allowed this to come down to our municipal body. And so we talked about this with the pools and the parks, and at the time the numbers were quite low in our county and area, and we saw now the possibility of exponential growth, and we could see numbers get worse. And really, I will support the resolution tonight. I think it is a protective measure and therefore a necessary measure. It is not me dismissing opinions that are contrary to mine. But on that note, I would say that the judgment before this body, first and foremost, appears to be, are we in a pandemic that our body finds to pose a risk to the public, or are we not? Because until we make that decision, it is hard to make subsequent decisions. From the data, I would say we are. Therefore, I will support this resolution, but I feel a discussion on an ordinance is warranted in the future, because if we truly believe that there are health risks, for the sake of consistency and cohesion, I think it is incumbent upon us to have that discussion. So I will support this tonight, but do believe we need to have that discussion on an ordinance. And I know this is a very difficult time for the city, the state, and the country, but I think we just need to act in good faith and try to protect our community, pardon me, as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm guessing this is Alder Herbst. It says Larson here, but
okay.
Somebody, okay. Thank you.
I'm going to be looking down at my notes rather than looking at your eyes. In fact, I think I'm going to start a new TV show, see if you can identify the individual from their nose up. I think it'll be a hit. I am sitting here, and I tell you, I'm being threatened by fear, and so are my constituents. We are driven to the point that they are instilling fear in us about this virus. This virus, the flu virus, kills thousands of people a year, and it's not a concern. We're getting all these numbers that are saying, okay, we've had 7,000 people, 290 of them been tested positive, 66 have died. But give us the percentages of the ones that have become healthy and are well and are doing fine. we're getting nothing but doom and gloom. And I'll tell you, I do not feel the information that we are being fed is accurate. We hear so many different things, and I, like Tom, yes, I have researched stuff to the point that my eyes are crossed from reading. And I tell you, they just have you coming and going, and I still believe, first of all, this is a mandate by the state of Wisconsin. I do not feel that the city needs to do a mandate mask. Again, we are all adults. We know our bodies. We know if we're sick, we stay home. What is going to happen and continue to happen to the businesses in our city? We go there, they have their mask on. The ones that have restaurants or bars, they're deathly afraid to open their doors for fear that, more people are going to be exposed to this. Where does it end? I mean, the fear is unbelievable, and it's amazing how people are driven by fear. I am sorry, but I can, based on my constituents, my own personal feelings, I cannot support this resolution.
Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been so back and forth on this, and too have read a lot of stuff, and I honestly, I've been around. I've been out and about the last 3 months. I go to Walmart. I go to grocery stores. I go all over the city, and with my lunch truck and stuff, and I see 99% of the people wearing masks. I don't honestly see where this resolution, I believe it's a half measure. I'm not going to support it. And by that saying, I also support that everybody keep doing what you're doing. Wear your mask. I just don't feel it's up to us to force people to do what they don't want to do. And I also want to touch on something else. I don't think that, I seriously believe that for the most part, people in this city are in compliance with this mask, and we really don't need this mask mandate. What I think would, and this is just me, my psychobabble, I think that in the past few months we've had too many super spreader events. We've had political gatherings, we've had where people don't adhere. I even heard radio advertisements over the summer for outdoor bands and stuff, and come and join us. I go by businesses where I've participated in the past, and I know what kind of floor space they have, and I see that, judging by the parking lot, they're packed full. They're not going by the 25% rule, and then I go to others where half their furniture is torn out and stuff, and it's one of those things, I think, where a few are ruining it for the others, and I honestly, I don't think this resolution it's just a half measure, and because I've been a part of 12-step programs in the past, half measures avail us nothing, and with that said, I will encourage everybody to keep doing what you're doing, wearing your mask, stay home, do the social distancing. We got to keep on this. We got to keep on this, but I'm not going to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Alder Neal.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Respectfully to Alder Herbst, the question of fear, I know that it's something that's out there. People talk about, they don't like the fear, I don't want to be afraid, and everybody's so afraid and whatnot, and that's legitimate in terms of emotion, but when you're talking about in the medical caregiving scenario where people are being treated for a virulent and devastating disease, the people that are in there are really afraid because they're afraid they might not make it. They're not being treated for fear, though. They're being treated for something really nasty. The question of, I know my own body, I know how healthy I am, I know if I don't feel good, I shouldn't go out. And that's true. But it's also true that we know that pre-symptomatic and asymptomatic infected people feel fine and then can go out and be a spreader. I had a couple of friends recently that both contracted, and he said, I just felt a little off, some headaches and stuff. And she got a little bit more sick feeling. But for them, luckily for them, it was something that, they got past. It's a weird, weird disease. What seems to be a player in this is how much of the virus you might have been exposed to. It's not like if one little molecule floats through the air and gets in you, bang, you've got it and you're in bad shape. You might have a small case of it and you can deal with it. What happens more often, from what I understand, from what I've been reading and hearing, is that the more of it that you're exposed to can mean you can be sicker. And larger exposure can be tied to clouds of respiratory droplets sent your way, unobstructed, by somebody who seems fine. They're not coughing, they're not sneezing, they're just talking, laughing, maybe singing. But those droplets, if they come at you in large portions and you are taking those in, you're more apt to get sicker. These are just the mechanics of the disease. That's why the masks are here to just add a layer, pun intended, hopefully a double layer of protection against transmission, against you blowing stuff out into a room, into other people's faces, even without you feeling sick. And they maybe aren't as hale and hearty as you. Maybe they have underlying issues, and they get sick as heck, and maybe they die. That is what we're talking about when we're talking about masking. It's not about, we've got to get rid of the fear, we got to get back to normal. We need to take the certain steps, which, again, experts are telling us we should be taking. I'm not an expert. None of us here are experts. We're learning fast. But we need to listen to people that have been doing this their whole lives and take that to heart when we're doing this. As far as getting sick and then getting over it and then you're perfectly fine, there's also been a lot of evidence recently that certain times people end up with lingering bad physical situations, that just don't go away because they've gotten past the COVID. They could have chronic lung problems, brain-related problems, all sorts of things that linger because of them, their medical history, their issues, whatever. So they're not in the people who died column. They're in the people who made it column, but they didn't make it so well because they are now chronically ill, uncomfortable, and not doing so well. That's the nature of this thing. This isn't just like a seasonal flu, not at all. It's a whole nother animal. So I think we really need to take this into account and look out for the public good.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Alder McElhaney.
Thank you. I have a couple comments and then I have a couple questions about the resolution. My comment is that I do have a nursing background. I've been a nurse for a long time. And so, I just want to say that this is a SARS virus. This is a SARS virus. This isn't the flu. So it's a SARS-CoV virus. And it's a nasty one, and I hope we can get it under control. I am a mask wearer, and I will continue to wear masks as I protect others like I did during my nursing career. That's why I wore a mask, not to protect myself, but to protect others. And I have worn masks up to 12 hours, 12, 14-hour days. And that, and I've not had any problem with carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide or getting pneumonia from it or anything like that. So now, are these masks that we're wearing, I'm kind of going through the things that people have emailed me some. Are these the end-all be-all? Absolutely 100% no, they're not. Are they N95? No, but it's all we got. It's all we got. It's like what we're saying is that the viral load is what Alder Neal was talking about. They are seeing some kind of a relationship with the amount of viral load one receives compared to how sick they get. Is it always true? No. Nothing's always true in medicine. This is also a novel virus. Novel viruses mean we don't know what the hell is going on. It's changing continuously. You know, all viruses were novel at one time. There were novel viruses, I mean, chicken pox and, you know, the 1918 pandemic was novel. And then when they got to be able to study it for a number of years, they got a hold of it, as they did with the flu. So, you know, we're just in a really, really bad time. With that being said, I have a couple questions about this resolution. I have a question, and these I had some businesses that I have talked to, and I would like to understand the definition of number 2. Indoor area accessible to the public means any interior area of any structure or premises licensed by the city of Wausau or used in whole or in part of a place of resort, assemblage, lodging, trade, traffic, occupancy, or other use by the public to which the public customarily has access but does not include my private residence. And then below that, be it further resolved that all businesses, organizations, and non-profit entities within the city of Wausau are encouraged to post notice requiring employees, customers, visitors, members, or members of the public to wear a face covering whenever they're in the building open to the public. My question is, with this, what does that mean? That is really not changing anything. We are just saying, please post and please wear a mask, correct? It's a suggestion. Okay. I want people to understand that because I hear, how dare you make me wear, nothing is really changing with this, which also, why do it? I mean, that's where I get it. What we want to do is change behavior to have more people wear masks. I agree with Alder Larson. Wherever I go, I think that they're wearing masks. So that's my conundrum, is that we're saying, please wear a mask. How can we call it a resolution? I mean, if somebody could answer that, I'm really somewhat confused, because we're just saying, we're suggesting people wear masks. Well, then what are we resolute about? That's just my question on this. I guess I don't like empty. I feel when government works or government decides something, maybe we're just saying, well, we really like you to wear a mask. Businesses, we'd really like you to post. I don't see that changing anyone's behavior who's who's not wearing a mask now. So why are we doing this? And I'm not saying that rhetorically. I really would like somebody to answer how they see this as changing behavior. Thank you.
I have Alder Rasmussen next.
Thank you. First, let me say that we looked at both in committee. We looked at the ordinance and we looked at the resolution. I believe that the committee was heading toward the ordinance, and I think that a large volume of our public feedback comes also from people who want the ordinance. They're tired of walking in somewhere and half the people in there are unmasked, and that then negates the effectiveness of the mask that they wore. That said, the committee shifted gears on the committee floor when they heard from the police chief, who said they did not at this time have the resources available to chase down individual mask complaints, nor did the dispatch center have the time or the resources available to chase down calls about individual mask violations. If that situation was different, we'd be looking at an ordinance tonight. When the committee decided to go forward with a resolution which encourages our community and the keepers of public spaces to come together, mask up, and require masks, show us that without penalties, that we as a community can do these things. We talked about the least invasive measure first. This is the least invasive measure. Gather ourselves, talk with one voice to our community, and tell our community that we want to see this outcome. Get the masks on and require people that come in your place to have them on. Now, if they choose not to do that, we can't help that. But where the committee left off with the discussion is that if this measure doesn't work, the ordinance is ready to go. It's drafted. Public health and safety can slap that on the agenda anytime they want, and they can bring that to you. But we need a chance for the community to demonstrate that the lesser measure can work first. And so our goal ultimately in all of this is to knock down virus numbers. And Mr. Killian is right. It is sad that this has been left to local governments and local school boards, and that the other levels of government above us have not taken the bull by the horns yet and done more. But also, it has become such a political statement, needlessly, that politics and public health have become so intertwined that people can't see daylight anymore. I mean, over an issue of public health, when the committee met, we had a mob out front. We had to be walked in and out of here by the police to keep this room safe. That's where we were at in the committee meeting. And if anybody wants to argue that with me, ask the cops that walked us in and out of here. It's ridiculous. We are to a point where our goal should be to be able to knock down this virus so that we can have events again, holidays again, that we can have our schools open and full and have all the kids attend on the same day, that we can have our businesses open and not care if 2 tables are close together. But we are so far from that. And every day we're worse. Every day that we do nothing, we are worse. And I think we have to stay focused on the fact that our measure goes into effect if the governor's mandate stops. His directive is always up front. And that's one thing that the city attorney made clear to us, is that if we take no action and we choose to do nothing on this difficult issue, and then the governor's mandate expires, we have nothing. There is nothing going on in this community to protect public health. And so that's why we chose the resolution over the ordinance. If it was a matter of wanting something with big teeth, I believe the committee was heading towards the ordinance first. But we decided to step back for a little bit and try this.
Thank you. I want to remind this body that you own this language. You own the resolution. So if there's something that you want to amend, if you wanted to add, be it further resolved more about education, about consideration of an ordinance, making sure that that's a priority for public health and safety, if you want to understand the resource load on the PD, if that's something you want public health and safety to explore, you can put that in this ordinance. So throwing it out there. I have Herbst, Peckham, Neal, Larson, just so you know. Alder Herbst. Can you turn your mic on, please?
I'm not sure if I want to, but I will. Regarding this mob outside, first of all, I've got several things here. I'll try to make it very quick. Regarding this mob that was outside, they were very, very quiet, orderly protesters, and I will tell you, I pulled my car up in front, parked in front of City Hall, and walked in amongst the people, and I certainly didn't have a problem. I didn't need a police escort in the building. Second of all, when it was at the Public Health and Safety meeting, I sat here and I truly felt as a member of 5 of this committee that I was being pushed or forward into going for the ordinance. And I asked the city attorney to give me a clarification of resolution, in spite of the fact that I had read everything in my packet. And then I decided that I was going to go for the lesser of the two evils, which I felt was the resolution. I really do feel that we are headed in the right direction. We do know that the governor is going to continue with these lapses, that he is going to renew and extend this mask mandate. For him to continue to say, stay home, my God, that's what people are doing. How much more stay at home can they do? I personally only leave to go to the city council, to go to a grocery store. I am masked. The people that I come across, they're masked. And I might tell you two things that bother me. First of all, the information that we're getting constantly on this virus, they don't tell you about the underlying health conditions of a lot of these people that are passing. Why can't they be honest? Why can't they tell you so you can distribute, and I should not say distribute, but you can distinctly from what group of age group to another is passing away. That information is not being given. And I will also tell you my last comment. I have a daughter that has a suppressed immune disorder. And I'm telling you, she did not talk to me from Sunday to Wednesday night because she said, Mother, you're talking about all these people, all these very important professors and you name it, the people with the degrees after their names. But she said, you weren't talking and thinking about me. She said, there are others like me that are out there. And she said, at least I would appreciate it if you would have taken me into consideration. And all I kept saying is, I have to do what I feel is right in my gut, and I have to do what the voters of District 9 have elected me to do. Thank goodness, as of Wednesday night, we have gotten back together again in speaking. But I will tell you in the future, I certainly will not put her feelings aside. It hurt too much. Thank you.
Alder Peckham. I'm not hearing you.
The light is green. Okay, I'll just...
Yeah, we have some people on WebEx who won't be able to hear you.
Thank you. I will try to be quick. I think my fellow alders have made a lot of good points here. We should support this. I think it's a fairly easy decision for us. We've had the state or the county health officer tell us this is a good idea. The state health officer tell us it's a good idea. The CDC tells us it's a good idea, and people want to go into the CDC website and find information that they say, discredits the mask idea. If you just do an internet search for CDC mask recommendation, comes up wear a mask. If you do the same thing with the World Health Organization, comes up wear a mask. The Surgeon General of the United States addressed remarks last week to the people of Wisconsin and said, wear a mask. So that much, we should all be in agreement with. We are not doing anything new here that isn't already in place. This is not further oppression of the people. There's a state mask mandate, and we specifically crafted this resolution and brought it to council as something that would only kick in if the state resolution would lapse and if we decided that this should continue. We thought there might be politics going on or whatever. Anyway, we decided that we didn't want to go with the ordinance because as it is now with the resolution and the state mask mandate, actually, if a business owner or the owner of an establishment of some kind has a customer or somebody in their establishment that is not complying and refuses to comply, they can already call the police. Police will respond, and if the person will not comply, they will be asked to leave, or they can be cited for disorderly conduct. So we do have an enforcement option at this point already. So I think we're good to go on this. As far as passage, on the third page of the ordinance, I think that in an era when people like to nitpick through language, we should probably beat them to it. And definition 1, face covering means a manufactured or homemade cloth covering. I think we should amend that, and I'm moving to amend that language to add the words or synthetic material. So it would say face covering means a manufactured or homemade cloth or synthetic material covering that fully covers an individual's nose and mouth, etc.
Okay, so I have a motion. Before we put more discussion on the original resolution, do I have a second to add the synthetic portion to the face covering definition? Second by Rasmussen.
Thank you. The reason for that is that most masks are made out of polypropylene anyway, so thank you.
Okay, so right now we will be discussing the synthetic portion, the amendment. So if you wanted to speak about that, I'll call on you. Otherwise, I can come back to you after we vote on this amendment. No, okay. Why don't we, if there's no discussion on the amendment, we can go ahead and have a roll call vote on that first.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Aye. Larson?
No.
Ryan?
Aye.
Motion passes 10-1.
Okay, now we are back to the resolution as amended. I have Neal and then Larson, so Alder Neal.
Thank you yet again, Mayor. I just very briefly, for Alder McElhaney, I think you got an answer to your question probably from Alder Peckham and Alder Rasmussen as to why we're doing this, what are we expecting to happen, if it doesn't have any teeth in it and whatnot. And yes, the answer is this is our placeholder in case for some reason the state mandate, fizzles away for unbeknownst reasons. As far as going everywhere and seeing people wear masks, I do see a very large percentage of people wearing masks when I go out and about. I try to keep my outs and abouts kind of minimal, but I have to go out. I hearken back, though, to earlier this year, before a mask mandate came in, and saw how few people wore masks everywhere you went. How few. It was like a joke. The governor's mandate kind of brought it home and made it policy, and we saw a larger percentage of compliance with that request. I just imagine now what would happen if the statewide mandate were rescinded, and would we just fade back to where we were in March, April, May, and people kind of like going, whatever, and going about doing their thing. I don't like masks, they make me uncomfortable, and they make my face sweat or something. Having the city able to have a mandate out there in effect cements the importance of it, I think, in the minds of our business partners, and I think in people as a whole. They know that it's still a mandate, and they might be more apt to take it to heart. Further, the city, with regards to businesses who do not take this seriously, we would then have some wherewithal as a partner to kind of talk to them about it and say, hey, you're not being a good partner. We're trying to help you, you're not trying to help us. So part of a partnership is that give and take and cooperation, and I think that's an important aspect of this too, is having a mandate out there telling your business partners, we're expecting you to work with us on this. So that's really why we would have it, because if we didn't have it, I really see us just backpedaling to where we are just being a lot more collectively unsafe.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I got elected to this position to represent people and listen and do stuff, and I do it to the best of my ability, but I kind of felt that we were just threatened. You know, I felt that Alder Rasmussen said that if we don't pass this tonight, the ordinance is right there, that the committee's right there to push this on if it's not, and that's kind of how I felt. I kind of felt threatened, and thank you.
Alder Rasmussen.
I guess let me respond to that for a second, because I'm not here to threaten my peers, and I'm not here to threaten the community. I'm saying that we did the work for two options. The city attorney did the work for two options. She drafted an ordinance, and she drafted a resolution, so that the committee had two choices. So my point in saying the ordinance is ready and the committee could bring it forward, the legal work is done. And there's been an awful lot of public feedback that's been coming in saying, we want the ordinance, we want the penalties, we want teeth in it, we want enforcement. You know, and I've had people accuse the committee of caving in based on the comments made by the police chief. I've had people criticize the police chief for influencing the committee's policymaking. I mean, this thing has gone around and around. There's many different perspectives to this, and the public feedback is overwhelmingly in favor of a mask requirement. What form that takes, they differ on. And I've had quite a few tell me that they wish that we were passing the ordinance tonight. Now, we're not. We're going to try, like I said, the lesser measure first. Let the keepers of indoor spaces and the public show us that that's all that's necessary. And I certainly hope that it is. But, you know, if we learn down the road as a community that we need something different, that's certainly an option that we can talk about. We can talk about it in the committee, and whatever the committee talks about, we can bring it here and talk about it too. But it's certainly not a threat, it's just a fact. Two different proposals were drafted, and we chose the less severe of the two.
Thank you. Alder Watson.
I'm alongside with Alder Killian. I like the resolution, and I'm going to vote for it, but I wish that there was more, I guess, actionable items in the resolution. Maybe not an ordinance and fines, but there are other options out there that other communities have tried to enact to help with, not enforcing, but encouraging mask wearing. Like maybe you could do more educational things, or have like the city set up some form that you could report violations, and we could go out and do more education on the basis of those locations. Something that's non-financially penalizing, because I mean, a lot of people are struggling now during this time. Would it negatively impact their finances if we tried to levy a fine of $100, $200, whatever? It's really about education, and I think that's the problem that I saw with a lot of things that came to me, was we don't have a common critical source that people can point to. There's, like, I got tons of sources from all over the place. I think maybe just better education of why masks are working, and just informing the public and those that it is one set of barriers that can help slow the spread, and maybe getting more education, getting more communication out there. Maybe even free masks, right, for people that can't afford them, you know, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Alder McElhaney.
Thank you. I just want to end my comments with this, is that I've made it very clear that I am for masks because, as I say, I'm out and about because I'm considered essential. I have to be out and about. And because I'm out and about, as careful as I am, I fear that I'm going to get somebody else sick. That is my greatest fear. My greatest fear is that I have an elderly mom. My greatest fear, and I try not to go around her, but I have that. I have a son with disabilities, and he has a lot of health issues. That is my fear. And so I just feel I'm just that kind of person that I really don't ever want to think, oh my God, I got somebody sick because I was just didn't do everything I could. I may still get somebody sick. I want to go back to that. People say, well, they're not working 100%. Absolutely they don't. But if I can do everything I can, that we can right now, until we get a vaccine or whatever else, I'm going to try to do it. I agree with Alder Watson in that I really think with the feedback I'm getting from businesses, they're scared. They've gone through hell and back with this pandemic. We're trying to keep them afloat. I want them to succeed. They've put their life and soul in their businesses, and by means that were not their fault, things are not going well. And they came to me scared. So I'm going to support this because it's a suggestion and it's just saying, hey, we want everybody healthy. But I also really am enforcing that I would like to do the business roundtable that we are planning to talk to businesses. How can we help you? How can we partner with you? I'd like to do that. I'd like to do more education. I don't want this. The city council said we should wear masks. That's not what this is about. We want people to be healthy. That's my thought in doing this. It's not that, oh good, I get to come up here and vote for some resolution. Mine is to try to win hearts and minds and try to keep everybody in this community as healthy as possible, to keep businesses open for everyone, that they can do well, to keep the bars and restaurants open, to make sure people are working and that I can go to work so I can make my money and pay my mortgage and things. So that's why I'll support it, as I don't think this is the end all at all. I'm not real happy about this, and I think I made that clear, but it's all I have in front of me. But I do say this is not the end. I really don't want this to be the end. I want it to be the beginning of bringing everybody together from every facet, bringing the rhetoric down, and let's talk. How can we work together to make everybody's life better? That's what I really would like to do, and that's why I'm going to vote for this. But I encourage anybody, any business owner, you have my email, you have my phone number, call me, and let's get together and see what we can do. Instead, I don't want us against them. I want us all working together so we can, there might be something better we can do. But, business owners don't want to upset people. They need the business, but yet they say, I don't know, my employee's sick. I mean, they're in the between rock and hard place as well. So I hope that we, as a community, this is Wausau, we've always come together. And I think we can again, and I hope that is the future for us.
Thank you. I know you and I have specifically talked about the business roundtable, and that's something I'm working with the chamber to set up. Obviously, this whole body will be invited to participate, working with the River District to do some site visits. So I think we also have some opportunity to explore how to make this a little bit different moving forward. I've shared some of that at Public Health and Safety. I agree with you. I don't think this discussion is over. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there were some very positive ideas from my colleagues, and building on some of the positives that Alder Watson mentioned, may I further amend the resolution that...
you own this. Let's do it.
All right. That it would also go back to Public Health and Safety to discuss potential educational opportunities and mask and the facilitation of access to masks, because I feel like if this requirement is there, or if it's pursued in the future, I'd like to see everyone have the ability to access them, whether it's low-income individuals and families or the homeless. So it doesn't have to be a hard and fast approach at this point, but I think just a discussion in public health and safety on how that type of facilitation of mask access may occur, I think that would be another positive step. Thank you.
I want to be clear. Your amendment is to pass this, but also have the discussion furthered in public health and safety about education and resources?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yep, it's an amendment. So I have a second by Peckham. Or are you seconding?
I'm going to comment on it, but I will second it.
I have a second. And I have Rasmussen, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, actually, I think that as a city, we can roll out that type of effort without committee action. First, the Public Health and Safety Committee can have a substantive discussion about the subject, but Public Health and Safety has no authorization to spend money. So we all have agreed as a governing body that we want to educate the public, and we can do that. I think we can roll that out. We just talked about in finance, we employ a videographer. I mean, if it's a matter of messaging and getting education out there and getting some additional information out there in formats that people want to find it in, I think that directive can come without going through a committee. And I think going back to committee just slows it down. So
I'm just clarifying, the amendment was to pass this, but also continue the discussion in public health and safety. Just.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, Madam Chair, on two items, education and mask access.
Okay. Alder Peckham.
Thank you. I think that, as others have pointed out, good points have been made. I think Alder Neal made a good one and should be brought out again. That kind of the thinking on the committee's part, without it really being spoken, is that if the state mask mandate goes away, the general public is going to believe, okay, I don't need to wear my mask anymore, the coast is clear. So we would have this to kick in. I think it makes good sense. And I'm sorry that Alder Larson felt threatened in any way by any of this. But I would point out that the Public Health and Safety Committee does not have the big stick here. We're not about to ram anything down anybody's throat because we're 5 people and we are here are 11. So we are not going to ram anything down anybody's throat. And I call the question.
So you're calling the question on the amendment, just to be clear, which is fine. Nobody else wanted to talk.
Then I'll call the question on the main motion so you can say.
Well, we have a live amendment, so we got to vote on that first, but nobody's requesting to speak, so you're in luck. All right. We're voting on the amendment to the resolution that in the be it further resolved section, we'll add a part that says that we'll continue the discussion at Public Health and Safety about education, resources, and mask access. So that's what you're voting on as an amendment to an action item here.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wodinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
All right, so here we are at the resolution as amended with our 2 amendments. I'm not seeing anybody else that wants to discuss this. Does anyone else need another kick at this one? All right, I think we're ready to vote.
Ryan?
No.
Larson?
No.
Herbst?
No.
Watson?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
McElhaney? Wodinsky? Neal?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-3.
All right, so thank you for that. You can expect further discussions on education and access to masks and public health and safety at a future meeting. Next item on our agenda is file number 201016. It's a resolution from CISM authorizing the installation of stop signs at Bopp Street and South 8th Avenue. That failed in committee 2-3. Do I have a motion? Motion by Larson. Do I have a second? Second by Killian. Is there any discussion on this? Alder Larson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I would also like to thank my colleagues for granting me the extra month here to get this important information that was omitted from the last packet. I turned all this stuff in. I don't know why it was not omitted, but could I get my colleagues to turn to page 43 of your packet, please? Are we all there?
Is this the page that begins problem all day long?
No, it's page 43 is the one with the speed enforcement evaluator.
44. It looks like this.
Oh, 44.
Yeah, well, it's 43 on my computer. Okay, the first one here is these first two were omitted from the last packet, and I thought it was very important to my presentation. This first one here is from 2017. It shows that there's a 10% over speed limit enforcement that goes to low. The enforcement rating is low. Now, if you go up to the next page, you have 2018 here. Oh, wait, no, pardon me. It was 1.6% above the speed limit, and the enforcement rating was low. So you go to the next page, and it's 2018. The percentage above the speed limit was 3%. And again, this is just in this time frame here. You go back to 2019. I'm assuming there is no speed report be there because there was stop signs on that corner. Now all of a sudden you go up to 2020 here, and the percentage above the speed limit is 5.3%, and it's all of a sudden gone from enforcement rating from low to medium. As you can see, the constant increase here. And as I said in my past, with the CISM committee, the way that the Thomas Street, I believe, is designed, you're getting more traffic down Bopp Street because people cannot exit and enter Thomas Street like they used to. I believe that this is also a product of the, how do I say it, the city created a problem or solved a problem and created a problem, because when they put the stop signs up, the neighborhood got used to having their city streets safe. And when they took the stop sign down, well, you can see the percentage above the speed limit rose to 5.3%. So all my neighbors, all the people there, all they're asking is just for the city to reinstall the stop sign on that intersection and make it a four-way stop. And I would also, it's been brought up, the MUTC numbers, where while they may not justify the numbers for a four-way stop, as you can see, the speed limit is apparently cannot be enforced, and it keeps increasing, and therefore I would like to see the stop sign reinstalled on a four-way stop on 8th and Bopp. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I just wanted, the data we have in our packets is speed enforcement data, and I have been on the CISM committee for 12 years. And in those 12 years, it has been reiterated to us over and over again by both our engineers and the police department that you do not use stop signs to control speeding. You use targeted enforcement. And, if we don't have the resources for targeted enforcement, and I think it was Alder Wadinsky who brought it up in committee, maybe one of the things we need to look at then is finding a way that within the police department, we form a traffic bureau whose job it is to target problem areas. Every single one of us can think of a street we have in our district where speeding is a problem and speed complaints happen. And, whether that's, and we hear about them in SISM all the time, whether it's Lakeview Drive or whether it's Golf Club Road or whether it's Campus Drive, we've all got one. And we all know where they are, and we've all had calls about them. We can't go all over town and make four-way stops to control speeding. We need to have a more effective way to enforce, other than having the sector patrol just try to do it in between other police calls, because that's really how they're doing it now. And so when they're there, or when the speed trailer is there, people tend to slow down. As soon as they leave, they go back to their own behavior. So if they go out there and they write a few tickets, the word gets out, people kind of calm down. But within 4 weeks, they're right back to where they started from. So if every one of us had a street where speeding was a problem, where there was a cross street, where the MUTCD standards don't dictate a four-way stop, we can't just keep throwing out the MUTCD standards. So that's the trouble. Our traffic ordinance says we shall comply, not want to comply or try to comply. We shall comply with MUTCD standards. And so in the committee, Tara Alfonso was trying to explain to us that you can't take one intersection that's out of compliance and use it as a reason to make more non-compliance. And so traffic laws in the city are enforced by municipal court and by our attorney's office, and we have to follow the standards that we're governed by, which is MUTCD standards. So in this case, the traffic flow on 8th is vastly different than the traffic flow on Buff. And so on two separate occasions, in 2018 and now, we've been told that the stop sign violates those standards. So I know that there's a speeding problem on Buff Street, and there's been one before the Thomas Street detour, and it's still there. And it's worse during shift change at Colby. We all know that. But the key is enforcement. It's not to just sporadically go all over town and keep putting in stop signs. We need to find a better way to enforce. And so whether it's the finance committee in connection with the police department or whatever, we need to have discussions about, just like when we formed the school resource unit, the neighborhood resource unit, those units within the police department attacked problems that we heard about all the time and are solving them. This traffic bureau could do that same thing. They could take a targeted approach and a cyclical approach so that they're not just there a day or two and then 2 years from now they come back. You would have a group of people whose job that is to create that accountability. And so I think it's a larger effort. It's not just plopping one stop sign at 8th and Buff. We need a better solution than that. And so because this violates the MUTCD standard, I won't support it, but I will support further discussions with the police department and some cost forecasting on what it would look like to create a real solution that can help everybody.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering were the MUTC numbers there when they installed the stop sign first before the construction? I mean, the speed study shows that they have obviously worked, and all the neighbors want is they just want it put back. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I think we still have Director Lindman on WebEx. He's in the flesh. He's here. So my understanding is that stop sign was installed for the construction detour as a temporary measure, and it was removed a little bit late after the traffic pattern had returned when Thomas Street opened. So the fact that they got used to it, if it's a temporary control to comply with the detour, that's totally different than installing something like this full-time. I guess if I'm wrong on that, Eric, come on up. But that's how I think we got the stop sign there in the first place.
Thanks. Yeah, if the DPW director would like to chat with us here.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, it was put up when we did the first side of Thomas Street on phase 1. And you're correct, when the construction was done, it wasn't taken down till the following spring or maybe even early summer. It was left up. And so just by, we didn't get back out there to take that down. So, in there, you're right. I mean, we did have residents that complained when we took it down after construction. But I can also say the traffic counts from 2018 to 2020 have dropped on Boff Street. The criteria with the DOT is that once you get a main arterial or principal arterial roadway reconstructed, typically you do counts not before 3 years after that street is fully constructed, because that's typically when the traffic patterns kind of level off. So DOT, I think, is on schedule every 2 years, so next year they may do another traffic count on Thomas and some of the other streets within the city. So just to reiterate, our from engineering recommendation hasn't changed, that the stop signs are correct at that location, and they should remain on 8th Avenue, and Boff should remain open without stop signs. So.
Okay. Are there any questions or further discussion? I think we're ready to vote on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
McElhaney?
Get clarification, there was a motion to pass it, and if we wanted something down.
Can you go to the mic?
The motion was positive, so if we don't want this, we say no.
Correct.
Very good.
McElhaney? Wadinski?
No.
Neal?
No.
Killian?
Aye.
Martins?
No.
Peckham?
No.
Rasmussen?
No.
Watson?
No.
Herbst?
No.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
You're muted. Oh. Okay, we're gonna unmute you. We're gonna send the request to unmute. All right, if you could unmute yourself and then vote.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion fails 3-8.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 191109. It's a resolution from the Finance Committee approving the 2020 budget modification for $50,000 for strategic planning consulting services. This is a discussion that originated with me. You'll remember in May, I gave a presentation about what I hope our city can accomplish through strategic planning. In order to do that, we got to do it. So I don't know how much it will cost. I know that it won't be more than $50,000. It could be less. We'll put an RFP out if you approve this, and we'll move it from there. You'll all be involved. The community will be involved, and we'll start this. We'll put the RFP out very soon, and then begin it in the beginning of the year. So I don't know if there are any questions or discussion about this. I would entertain a motion. Oh, I should probably take a motion first. A motion by Neal, second by Watson. Yes, Alder Neal.
I guess my only question is, do we have some examples of, let's just say, cities like ours that have employed, strategic planners to come in and do this sort of thing that we look upon as sort of a model for what we're trying to accomplish?
I don't have the cities, but I do know that the county has done this for the last several years. I think their first go at it was 2012, and they needed a facilitator to begin with to get this discussion going. And since then, they've been able to focus on, I think, 5 or 6 key components that will help drive the county forward. So they came out with a mission statement, so anytime you ask the county what is the point of your existence, they will tell you that it is to be the safest, healthiest, most prosperous in Wisconsin. So I anticipate that we would come out with something like that, but also a plan for each committee moving forward, what kinds of things we would need to accomplish in order to get us where we need to go. We need to come up with some goals, and then we need to start executing against those. Alder Ryan. Oh, you're muted. One moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you.
Okay. I guess I'd like to clarify about the strategic plan, and I guess the way I envision it as being part of the city of Wausau is to focus on a lot of local information. Within a few months, we should be able to have the 2020 census data. A few months ago, United Way gave their annual life report, which shows a lot of data about our neighbors, that I think of people that are living on the edge of financial insecurity. And I do think that we should be focusing a lot of our information not on how to become a little Madison, but how to serve the people in our neighborhoods and hopefully to make life better. And I guess I'm just worried if we put too much money into it, we're going to have some type of facilitator that's going to be trying to push us into being a little Madison. And I guess I just don't see that as what our emphasis should be. We should be working within our community and what's possible to be a small-sized town, Wausau, but make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Ryan. I guess I'll give you a little bit of clarification. When I was trying to figure out how much I should even request for this, I reached out to WIPS. And as you know, they partner with a lot of our community organizations. And I said, I don't really know how much I should be asking for. And I said, is $50,000 in the right ballpark? And they said that would get us where we want to go, plus some follow-up plans. So I anticipate we would be using the life report as part of our body of data. I would anticipate we would be using small groups and large groups, however we can do that in this COVID environment, to figure out what our city's goals are. And I think you'll find that your neighbors, maybe their goal isn't to become Little Madison, but become the best Wausau. So I don't think I'm looking too far outside. Obviously, I'm not just going to say, hey, WIPS, here you go. We need to put it out for an RFP. So they will, of course, be invited to respond and tell us what they can do for us. But that's kind of the direction I'm going. I don't know if there are any further questions or if we're ready to vote. Okay, we're ready to vote.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wodinski? McElhaney? Okay, we'll come back to her. Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
McElhaney? Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you very much. We are moving on to file number 201104. It's a joint resolution from the education, just kidding, I skipped ahead. File number 191109, resolution from the Finance Committee authorizing the 2020 annual budget adjustment. I don't know if our Finance Director wants to give us a brief overview of what that means for us.
Sure. So the city adopted something in the municipal code a number of years ago where the goal was to make sure that the budget balanced at the end of the year, and that we would look at budgets that have some wiggle room in them and use that to balance budgets that are running short. And so the list that's in the resolution actually gives detail of why we are making the budget modifications, and the funding source that we're using to balance those shortages is the Parks Department's seasonal staffing. I know that we have some discussions coming up about what to do with any year-end surplus. I've worked with Jamie Polly. She feels comfortable with this transfer amount. And so that is, I guess the resolution complies with our municipal code. And the attachment really shouldn't be on there though, so don't look at that. I don't know where that came from. It's from 2018 though.
Okay. Do I have a motion by Rasmussen? Do I have a second? A second by Neal. Is there any more discussion on this? I'm not seeing any hands up, so.
McElhaney? Wedinski. Neal.
Aye.
Killian.
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Peckham. Ryan.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Herbst.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to file number 201104. It's a joint resolution from the Economic Development and Finance Committee approving the tax increment financing incentives of $175,000 and the sale of 920 North First Street for $140,000 to Cherry Street Dental for the construction of a $2.2 million clinic facility in the River Life District. I would entertain a motion by Rasmussen. Do I have a second? Second by Watson. Is there any discussion? Yes, we talked about this one enough in committee. Oh, Alder Ryan. Oh, I can't hear you. We don't know what's happening. You are unmuted. Okay, you're muted, and now we sent a request to unmute. Can you hit that? Oh, man, we cannot hear you. No. I don't know what happened here. We cannot hear you. It was going so well until this point. The option, if you wanted to call in, no. Yeah. We don't know if there's a special button on your headset. Is that a possibility? No. I can see what you're mouthing. One moment. Okay, we sent a request for you to unmute. No. Do you want to type your question in the chat? Or there's a number on the agenda you could call in. We'll just... We could break for a tiny 5 minutes to figure this out. Could we have her, we could have her call this phone. Yeah, if you know the number. Yeah. All right, we're gonna send you the number you should call. So if you call in, we'll be able to hear you. Okay, so if you want to use your phone to call us up. Kind of exciting. Is there any other discussion by anyone else, maybe? No? Okay.
If you got the phone up to her ear, she's going to dial now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I left it on yet. But I can turn it off.
It's okay, this has been every meeting for the last 8 months. Oh, I think we hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I have been
Or is it us? Do we have to mute
going to Dr. Bejar on the west side since
has moved on to the Dorsey property that has recently been built near the Stewart Avenue Parkway. And I believe that this new development, which is a larger clinic, had not received TIF funding, and it has been Cherry Tree Dental has been handling some of the management for the clinic. So, in my opinion, if there wasn't any TIF funding being used on the west side, and now there's being a sister large dental clinic being built on the east side, that neither one should be receiving TIF funding.
Thank you. I have Alder Rasmussen. I also see that our business development specialist is at the ready if we have any specific questions, maybe about how the TIF funding is being used, but Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. We asked that question in economic development, and at that time we had Jack Young on with us, who indicated that even though Cherry Tree is working with that clinic that's in the Dorsey building, that they were a tenant in that building, I believe. And this particular building on the riverfront, they would own that building, and that site has challenges. And so that was the distinct difference that he outlined when we had him on WebEx. I don't know if Sean's on, if he could confirm, but that's how I understood Jack Young.
Yes, we do have Sean Fitzgerald, our economic development specialist.
I love when we think they're on WebEx and they're like right here.
We've had a couple people all over the place.
And actually, Dr. David Aker is here this evening as well. He's one of the 3 dentists involved in this Cherry Tree clinic that's petitioning for the River Life area. And then I believe Jack Young is on with us as well via WebEx. But that was correct. I think Jack Young had explained that Dr. Bertram has been actually with Cherry Tree Dental for, I think it was over a decade. It's been quite some time. But Cherry Tree Dental, in that clinic, they're tenants of a Dorsey-owned facility. So Mr. Dorsey developed that facility on his own privately. This is a separate facility that Cherry Tree Dental is actually looking to own and operate itself. And please, I do encourage you to ask any questions of Mr. Young as well about the project that you might have, or Dr. David Aker. Thank you.
Okay, I see Alder Ryan has dialed in again. I assume that means you have a comment or a question?
I did have a question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess in my listening to the last meeting, I was under the impression that the West Side Clinic was only going to be a renter. So if they're only going to be a renter, then why are they asking for TIF funding?
So we're talking about
the developer should be asking for that if they wanted to.
Okay, yeah, Sean will.
Oh, yeah. In this case, the developer is asking for this. In that case on the west side, Mr. Dorsey was a developer, and they did not ask for TIF funding. They had a different situation with that facility. This is a completely separate project from everything else that Cherry Tree Dental has done in Weston or elsewhere in Wausau, for the reasons that they're asking, which have to do with the foundation and some of the extraordinary circumstances with the soil conditions in that area of River Life. So.
Yeah.
I guess I'm having difficulties understanding, but I do feel that Mr. Dorsey and his developments has far exceeded TIF funding. Just because he knows about it doesn't mean it should be necessarily given every time. But I guess I still don't understand a lot of Sean's comments was just a lot of mumbling that I heard on my end.
Okay, so to be clear, Mr. Dorsey is not developing this property. He is not the developer asking for the money.
Correct.
Right. Correct. This is Cherry Tree and Keller.
Who is the developer?
Keller?
Cherry Tree Dental is the developer.
Yes.
They're the developer. They will be the owner and the operator.
I thought Mr. Young had said in the past meeting that they are only going to be the renters of the East Side Clinic.
No, yeah. And Mr. Young's available again to answer some of these questions too. But yeah, they're the developer.
Yeah. Mr. Young, I would invite you if you'd like to speak.
Okay, I guess I'm still against it because the west side did not get TIF funding, so why should the east? They're both being mega dental clinics being built.
Okay,
but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Young, the floor is yours.
I'm not sure. I'd be happy to respond to that. Thank you for the opportunity. I guess the situations are very, very different. We're clearly just a tenant in the development that's happening on the west side of Wausau. The Dorsey organization helped develop that along. We're one of 2 tenants that are slated for that property, and there's a space that they built out for a third tenant. It's been undetermined who that might be at this time. The property on the east side that we're discussing tonight is one that we will develop, and I think a little bit different situation, just given the nature of the soils in which we're attempting to build. So I think all we're asking for is that we get some kind of consideration, so we're building on what would have normally been just normal conditions.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. I think we're ready to vote.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
She said no.
Motion passes 10-1.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 201104. It's a resolution from the Plan Commission amending the general development plan at 920 North First Street to allow for a 6,100 square foot dental clinic in a planned unit development zoning district. This was approved. Do I have a motion? Motion by Rasmussen. Do I have a second by Wadinsky? Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any. I think we're ready to vote on this as well.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
You want to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, maybe?
We'll come back to her. Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Ryan? Motion passes 10-1.
Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda, we are requesting to suspend the rules. 12A, referral of resolutions to the full body. This requires a 2/3 vote. I would entertain a motion. Motion by Watson, second by Neal. Any discussion? All right. We're ready to vote.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Can you give a thumbs up maybe to your camera or a thumbs down? I'm seeing her say aye.
I see the same.
Okay.
Peckham?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
McElhaney? Motion passes 11-0.
All right, thank you. We are moving on to file number 200317. It's a resolution ratifying the emergency proclamation of the Chief Executive Officer pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic and declaration of emergency. You all probably heard all about this, but I'm requesting that you ratify the emergency declaration that I made 2 weeks ago. Motion by Neal. Second by Larson. Is there any discussion? I'm not seeing any.
McElhaney? Wadinsky?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Killian?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Ryan? I saw her say
It looked
aye.
like an aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
All right. Item number 200317, a resolution ratifying the Executive Declaration number 8 under City of Wausau proclamation of state of emergency pursuant to state statutes 323.144B relating to limitations on public gatherings in government facilities. I would entertain a motion. Motion by Wadinski, second by Peckham. Is there any discussion? All right, I'm not seeing any. We are ready to vote.
Peckham. Aye. Martins.
Aye.
Killian.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Wadinski.
Aye.
McElhaney. Rasmussen.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Herbst.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
All right, and there's one emergency declaration that is not on here. You can expect to see that at some point. We have it sent over to the Safe Elections Task Force since it's moot at this point. So you'll see that at a future council meeting. One last motion. Move to adjourn by Wadinski, second by Watson. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you very much, everyone.
That was weird.